Hey guys, it's Tom from Speed & Tube. Welcome back to channel. I'm here with mate Ant with his epic Grumman OM606 Merc diesel swap. We've got a beautiful evening here over in Newquay.
This is Porth Beach.
Porth Beach in Newquay. Lovely spot here. Going to show you around his epic Grumman now. Ant's a bit more than someone who I'm just filming a car for. Ant's actually done a lot of the work on my T4, everything from the engine mounts, loads of other custom parts with the exhaust as well. And this is just one of the vehicles that showcases Ant's talent. So over to you, Ant. Show me around the vehicle. We can start off with the swap, I guess, because the engine's a bit of a beast.
It's the heart of the machine, isn't it? So it's a Mercedes 6-cylinder, 3-litre turbo diesel out of a late 90s Mercedes W210. They're renowned for being strong, taking the power, and they're quite simple. So you basically convert it from an electronic controlled fuel pump to a mechanical fuel pump off the slightly older car, stick a big turbo on it, a few other bits and pieces, and you've got decent power. So this is a fairly mild setup. It's pushing about 370, 400, somewhere in that range. We've got to get it dialed in on the dyno again, because the first time we did it we had some transmission issues. But even with the transmission issues we were hitting about 320 on the dyno, so pretty happy with that. It's got Holset HX35, 7.7mm pump from Diesel Pump UK, got cooling from Mishimoto, catch tank, and all the pipe work is made to get this top mount intercooler up here because we were a little bit tight on space at the front. You can see a little glimpse in here of some of the chassis work. I threw away the chassis that this was originally built with. They're a Chevrolet S10 chassis originally. This is now a scratch built chassis, full cage, all of which we've done in-house. We've got a nice Deakin tube bender, so we can do all the cage work exactly where we want everything. It makes it a dream to build stuff like this, and as you can see we get carried away. Every little thing is bent tube or CNC plasma cut parts. When you've got the tools in-house you can just do such a nice job quicker. It's running a 722.636 I think it is transmission. It's basically the same transmission that came in the donor car but from the V8 car, so it's the strongest Merc gearbox that they did at that era. That then needs an aftermarket transmission control unit, which is from a company called Off Gear, and that's what gives me the flappy paddles. So I can bang through the gears on there. To be honest, I never use it in auto mode. It drops out of gear into the next gear before you really hit power, so it's a little bit dull. But on the paddles, it's great. You can scream.
It's really smooth as well, isn't it?
It's great. I toyed with the idea of a manual, but because of the seating position, the floor is very high, so the transmission's quite far back. The shifter would have been a bit of a nightmare, and to be honest, once I found out that I could get it on paddles, it was a bit of a no-brainer. So when we show you the cab, you can see all of that stuff. Suspension-wise in the front, I mean, obviously it's bagged, it sits on the floor. So we're running Airlift 3H management and Slam Specialities bags all round. The suspension itself, the actual hardware of the arms and that, they are actually Mercedes. I went down the line of thinking, well, they've spent millions developing their suspension system, and if I can get it to work, this thing weighs about half what the donor car weighs. I figured that would be a better effort than trying to make my own design in a short space of time and expect to improve on Mercedes work. The other thing was all the arms and stuff can be got new, off the shelf, new bushes. It was just a no-brainer again. There was a few key things that really helped this build come together quickly. I mean, we've got a pretty staple formula really for all our work at the moment. We've got products that we like. You know, we use Pro-Ram filters from Ram Air. We've got all our lines made up by Hell Performance in Exeter. You know, it's just things that work seems to be the way to go. It just saves a whole load of grief. Sometimes it costs you a tiny little bit more, but in the long term, really, I think it's actually better value to go for the stuff you know works, because you only do it once. We've got IW Automotive wheels, Nankang tyres, they're the NS2Rs, I think they are, and for an affordable tyre, these things stick. I mean, one of the things I've been most impressed about with this build, because you never really know until you drive it, is how well it sticks to the tarmac. I'm getting to the point now where I think if I pushed it anymore, I'd be worrying about putting it in a hedge. So I think some track time is in order. because I don't know where the limit of these tyres are around corners at the minute, because they just stick. And with the high seating position, I think it exaggerates the feel of the cornering. You feel the cornering in this. We've got gas adjustable shocks on it, so we can firm it right up. And yeah, it's a bit of a beast, to be honest.
Mate, it handles really well. And the thing that is really hard to get across on video is how something feels. So my T4, you know, it's like you're in a tin can bouncing around.
Yeah.
This just feels like you're in a Mercedes.
So although it's a scratch-built chassis, all the mounts and everything are exactly where they were on the donor car.
Yeah.
Because the cars are pretty much worthless other than for the engine, I just chopped the whole front end off, jigged that, all the mounting points up, the subframe basically replicated that in all CNC plasma cut profiles, welded it into a chassis. And
it works perfect.
Yeah,
and that's exactly. I mean, that's why I refer to it, because I had a CLS 55 AMG and that had air suspension.
Yep.
And if you had it on comfort, it feels exactly the same in this. You're just cruising along. Don't underestimate this, as you guys have probably seen in the videos. This is not slow. How much does it weigh again?
I haven't had it on scales yet, but it's an aluminium body shell, and I mean, it's single skin in places. You know, like there's no weight to it.
Race
really.
van.
Yeah, race van. So it looks like it shouldn't go quick. And I mean, there's things like the bumpers, which are original, but weigh an absolute
That
ton.
reminds me of bumper cars, that does so much.
100%. But they're part of the character. I couldn't get rid of them, even though they're so heavy. So, you know, it could be a bit lighter, but unlike you, Tom, who's, you know, shaving weight left, right and centre for any...
apart from myself.
Apart from the beer belly. Well, you're working on it, it's all right. I took a little bit more of an approach where I knew it was going to be a little bit leery, and with it being aluminium, I wanted the full cage. So if we go around and have a
let's have a look inside.
This is the cockpit. All of this is built from scratch. Essentially, with this build, the only thing that's original is the outside. The aluminium exterior is the only original. I mean, you've got these bits and the floor, but even the floors had to be tubbed, sections in the centre modified to take the transmission, the bell housing on the transmission. So when I was building it, I really wanted to tie everything together. So the cage is tied to the chassis, the cage is tied to the body up here, it just ties it all in to stiffen it, because with it being aluminium, it's not very strong. It's a box, so you've got some real stress points on all the corners, and it's no longer rubber mounted, the body, it's solid mounted to the chassis. So everything ties in. There's gussets up the top that we've CNC plasma cut and welded in. There's sections, as you can see through the glass here, that tie it all together. I mean, even modifying for where the door catch is, because originally the door catch comes back to here, but because of the cage it has to stop there. You know, we've extended all of that. The seats are mounted onto the cage, the center console is part of the cage, the steering column is bolted to the cage, so everything is minimalist in a way, but all tied together. We made up a little aluminium fascia plate, CNC cut some other aluminiums to sort of step that off, raise it as like a bit of a bezel for some of the gauges. We've got stack gauges in there, we've got our transmission controller in there, we've got our airlift 3H controller in there, and obviously all the switchgear that we need. Electrics tucked away neatly, some nice Sparco buckets, Sparco wheel, and some nice bright pink harnesses. That's it really, it's pretty straightforward in there. Should we have a look in the back? We've got a trusty Optima red top in the back. Again, another staple product that we use in a lot of builds. Just reliable, do what you need to do. One thing about this vehicle is it's got loads of quirky features, which I love. So you've got these vents here that...
That's so random.
They can go either way, look. So they can go like that, or they can go forward. So from the outside...
scoop air in.
You scoop air in, or allow it out.
That's gagging for a rear engine conversion, isn't it? With that scoop on there like that to draw in. That's a bit R8-esque, isn't it?
And then another thing that it had on it is these weird like strips on here. Now these aren't the original ones. I've cut some steel ones and plasma cut some holes in, just, you know, race van. But the only thing I can think therefore is like backing up to loading docks maybe that are a bit higher than the crazy thick bumper. And I think they must be designed just to take a little bit of a tap before the bodywork gets clipped. I've given them my own little touch, little spin. There's holes drilled in the handles on the front, which you may or may not notice, the mirror brackets, anything just to give it a bit more of a race look and a bit lighter. Oh, this was another gift as well. because these are still in service and have been for far longer than planned, somebody at some point obviously decided, let's upgrade them to LED lights.
Yeah.
So the lights I had in originally, the rubbers had all overspray all on them, they were perished, the lenses were cracked, they were corroded, you know, they were crap. This full set of LED lights was available in the States, and it was like 350 quid shipped, which was insane. For all these lights, all the side repeaters, for something that was really awkward and quirky, it was actually really easy to get bits for.
Yeah, definitely.
I got like bits for the handles, the wipers, and then everything else I threw away. This is probably my favourite addition, the exhaust. Totally unnecessary. It's a 3-inch system all the way through to back here, but there was this weird void from factory. You know, you got that massive bumper, you got a nice big wheel and tyre, and there was just this empty space calling for the exhaust to come out there. I put the 3-inch tailpipe there, they look dreadful. 6-inch, spot on.
It does look epic. Teardrop you've got on there as well. I don't think anyone's actually going to be able to see. I mean, my hands aren't small, but it's massive.
Well, look, I'm 6'5", and my hand is about the size of the opening.
It is absolutely perfect.
But it fits the gap, you know.
It does. It's made for it. And
I'm a strong believer that when you're building a car like this, you have to roll with the punches on some stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, like a gap like that is a bit of a gift. It's telling you, use me, like do something with it. And although getting hold of a 6-inch mandrel bend was not easy or cheap, it was worth it. You know,
it's the right thing to do. Yeah. That's spot on.
And then coming around this side into the cab, on this side, you can just see a bit more of the engineering with things like the steering column. Again, because the engine's quite far back relative to the seating position, and there's no scope to push that back without removing the centre divide, I had to get quite a few UJs in the steering column, get it down onto the rack, but it all works fine. There's no binding, and because it's power steering, it drives lovely. Yeah,
power steering.
Power steering.
Ant's had the pleasure of driving the T4. It's not much fun without the power steering with those massive 255 tyres on, is it?
It's no surprise you had a hernia a few months ago. Put it that way.
So there you go, guys. I hope you've enjoyed having a good little walk around Ant's Grumman. It's an absolutely wicked project, and it just showcases the work that they do. So, Ant, any final thoughts? Anything you want to say?
No, I mean, if you like the sort of stuff you see here, we're building stuff like this every day. Check out all our social stuff. It's Autostyl without the E. And Instagram's probably the best place to follow what we do, but we are on Facebook and we've got a website. We're based in Cornwall, but we build cars for people from all over. So even if you're not right by us, don't hesitate to get in touch if you've got something weird and wonderful that you want building.
Perfect, and you've got a recovery truck to go and collect stuff as well.
Yeah.
Guys, hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for watching. Make sure you give Ant a follow on the socials. I'll also be doing a lot of work with Autostyl as well, because they're a mile down the road and they build all the sort of stuff that I really love following and just keeping an eye on. I've seen this go from standard to this awesome build, and obviously a lot of you have seen my T4 as well, which is just a testament to this guy here.
And my team. Got a good team.
You've got a very good team, yeah. Perfect. Right, should we go and get a beer at Fistral?
Sounds good.
So there, guys. Cheers.